Hey, Ian, could you just speak again real quick?
Sure, I can speak just like this.
Okay. Yeah, I've got my audio is coming through my laptop and not through the TV.
Can you
Hang on,
specify in terms of in the microphone area, you've got your selected microphone and selected speaker. Is one of your selected speakers in Zoom? Can you send it to the TV perhaps?
See what that does.
How about now? Am I coming through the TV? Also, there's volume control on the TV, which I would need to
Yeah,
be
no,
on.
I just switched it all to the laptop. We're good now. I can hear folks.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, it's recording too, so I'm all set here. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And Kevin's on board. Who do we have for Brenda? Josh. Yep. Yep. And Rob. And Josh. And Rob. So I've got 5, which is what you need for a quorum. You just can't have any dissenting. Oh, so you're a 7-person board. Oh, and John's coming over. Oh,
Yeah, just.
oh, and I forgot to. Carol's trying to get in.
Hey, John.
Yeah, everyone's admitted, so okay.
My wife went to bed. She got her, we both got our shots today. She sent me the two. She said, late afternoon, got all of a sudden stuff like that.
Yeah, Jen had hers today, and my wife, she's like, "Oh, I'm fine so far." I'm like,
Yeah, it's
Chris?
Yep.
"Yeah,
Good. I just want to make sure I could hear.
yep, I got you. We can hear you, and you can hear us apparently."
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
All right, so Carol, Ted, John, me, Josh, Rob.
The only person we're missing is
Jamie on?
Tom Wells.
Yes.
yeah,
Who are alternates,
Josh and Rob.
Yeah, so they're both going to sit tonight, right? We had 7.
We have 5 without them, right?
We had 7. Kevin, Brenda, John, Ted, Josh, Rob,
Yeah, and Carol.
and Carol. Okay, so
We have
the other day, all right, let's call the meeting to order.
okay. That's perfect. Track here. Okay, we're back on track.
All right, the meeting will come to order for the Development Review Board, April 27. Hi Peggy, glad you decided to stay with us. So we have 8 folks here, both are alternates, and I think last time was it Josh sat on the board and Rob did not, so we're gonna flip it this time. Okay, so Rob is sitting tonight. Thank you both for attending. Any additions or deletions, adjustments to the agenda? I have one. And that's, I would like to wait on the approval of the minutes from the last meeting because we just got them and I haven't even read them yet and they're quite lengthy. So if it,
I actually hadn't put them on here on purpose.
okay, well, they went out today, so I prefer, if everyone's okay with that, not to proceed with a review of the minutes from April 13. Good, okay. Any other suggestions or issues about the agenda to talk about tonight? All right, so we'll go first. Is there a warning? Yeah, I know, but, all right. All right, the first item on the agenda is permit number 21-402. Can everybody hear me okay, despite the mask? Okay.
Yes.
And that's for Clark Investment Properties located at parcel 22013 West Street for sketch plan review. It's for a 4-lot subdivision. It's the Martin's Hardware property. Who's here for the applicant?
I am Kevin LaRose.
Okay, you want, so this is a sketch plan review, folks. We did a couple of them for the first time at the last meeting. You know, it's for us to get our bearings on the proposal. The only substantive thing we need to decide, in fact, there's no discussion here at all, is that whether it's a major or a minor subdivision, and because it has commercial development, because of Martin's Hardware, the existing store, it's automatically the major, so there's no issue there. So Kevin LaRose, you want to give us a thumbnail sketch of the proposal? We've got your plans.
Okay, so you guys are looking at the plans wherever you're
Yep.
looking? Okay.
Would folks like me to bring that up as a shared on the screen? Or are you good with? I have my own.
I've seen it.
All right. Well, just, yeah. So just the once over is, I think most everybody here is fairly familiar with Martin Kathleen's property over there on West and Liberty. And they are looking to create 3 single family home lots off the north end of their property. And I said they'll just be single family homes. It's a traditional subdivision, you know, hitting the you know, minimum lot size. Each of these lots are about 1/3 of an acre. Minimum is about 1/4. And you know, frontage for 2 of the lots will be on West Pleasant, and the lot between those and Martin's Hardware, the actual fenced in area out back, will front onto Liberty Street. You know, obviously here for sketch plan, and once you folks give us some direction, then we'll start headed down the path for, well, it sounds like it'll be a major, and obviously he'll have to be going through some state permitting as well, but we wanted to get a little guidance from
Right.
you folks and
Right.
make sure we're checking all the boxes, so to speak.
Yep, and we're new to these regs, Kevin, so we're gonna talk our way through a little bit. So we haven't had we've only had a couple sketch plan reviews thus far, and so folks, when it's a major, it's a 2-step. It's preliminary subdivision plat approval, and then a final to address any final issues and to submit the requisite state permits as well. So those can happen in fairly close order, but a major requires 2 steps. So one of the issues is, Kevin, is that there a plan to apply for zoning review concurrently with the subdivision approval? Or are you just going for the subdivision approval first, and somewhere along the line there'll be permits for houses?
Yeah, that'll be somewhere down the line. I guess I will go out on a limb and speak for Martin and Kathleen, and I believe their intention is to, you know, sell the lots. So should I decide to move over here to Liberty Street, I would take that, you know, applying for the local building permit for my home, and at that
Right.
point, my septic permit would be in place. So yeah, so zoning would be pushed off to down the road.
Yeah, okay, so it won't be a concurrent review, it'll be a straight subdivision.
Correct.
And the 3 lots behind the hardware store, those are all gonna be residential, right?
Correct. Single family homes, each one of them.
Okay. When looking at this is for Chris Purley, this is a 2-zone lot, right? ROC and HDR? Where, yeah, okay, so it's behind the lumber shed is where the boundary line, so Kevin LaRose, all the 3 building lots, those are all gonna be in HDR, is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess as far as when the review comes around on subdivision, the only one that, and I think it's fine just by eyeball, but you've got some lot coverage requirements in the ROC based for the existing hardware store. And you're gonna wanna make sure you can show us that you comply with it. I think it's 60% if I remember right, but now that we're cutting the Martin's lot down, I think it's still fine, but you're gonna want to take a look at that.
I will do that.
Does anybody on the board have any questions for Kevin LaRose? John Moyers, go ahead.
Just a quick one. I think I know the answer, but on lot 2, 3, and 4, the dotted line that's interior to the actual lot boundary, is that basically a building envelope? That's a setback?
Yeah, that's, yeah, exactly, John. That's a setback, and I will probably end up fine tuning that once we kind of got a sense from you folks on things, and because clearly I got to get some septic on here, and we probably won't put building on our septic system. So those building envelopes, I'm guessing, will be probably pushed toward the street a little bit, so they won't be quite as deep. But yeah, it meets all the minimum setbacks.
All right, thank you.
What does Martin's hardware store have for septic right now, Kevin?
They have an existing system that is. Are you familiar with the store?
Very.
Yeah, okay. All of us are a little too familiar.
I think I could get my mail there.
It's the he has a little grass area on the east side of the building. So if you're pulling in and you're headed out to the shed
Yeah.
on that side of the building, that's where his existing septic system is. And
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
So as part of this permit, though, we're going to have to obviously, well, maybe not obviously, folks, but we have to identify a backup site for his for the store should that ever fail. So that will be located somewhere on his lot, which will in all likelihood be adjacent to the fenced-in storage area.
Okay. And you anticipate single lot systems for the other 3 lots? I imagine this has got to perk really well like the rest of Bristol, right?
Yes, it does. It works very well. Yeah, each home will have its own individual septic system.
Okay. Any
And we'll
other questions from board members?
Yeah, I
Nancy?
do.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Okay. It says the lot size is, well, in the regulations, it says the lot size should be 10,000 square feet.
Right, that's
And on the application, the lot size is given in acres.
well,
10,000 square feet is how many acres?
0.23,
It is 0.23, not 32, right?
correct.
0.23 acres, okay.
I can add in the square footage. That's no problem.
No, I was just wondering because I wanted to think about it.
Well, you make a good point, Brenda. I think it's nice to see it on there since that's what the regs refer to.
Well, it's just, the other thing is, well, I suppose you can't do it. You can build on these lots and still have a lot coverage of less than 50%?
On the home lot, for sure. And I need to do the math on the hardware store lot.
And yeah, because a lot of that's been paved over. And also, do you need any particular spacing or they have taken down any other, what would you say? Trees and stuff in between the commercial building and the homes that have been here regularly, is there going to be landscaping between the storage area and the lot number 2? As
That's
required?
certainly, yeah, that's certainly something I could talk to Martin and Kathleen about. I went out and actually located every single tree between the fenced in storage and West Pleasant, because I agree with you. I think there's some beautiful maples out there, and I wanted to keep as many of them as possible. And I think we'll be able to keep about 85% of them. So, but I will talk to Martin and Kathleen about some extra screening maybe along that storage area.
But there also is a regulation, unless they've cut it out, that we've had long discussions over, where a commercial use or a non-residential use is supposed to be screened from the residential uses. And there is no screening anymore on the west side, but are you going to put in some screening there on the north side?
You're talking between the fence and storage and lot number
Yeah,
2?
I mean, that goes with the store.
Yes, I can put some in between the fenced in area and lot number 2 for sure.
Yeah,
Well, that's something to give some thought to when you come back with the preliminary plat approval.
and I have one more question. So were the adjoining landowners notified about this hearing?
Not by me, no. I was
No.
under the impression for a sketch plan, we did not need to.
Chris will answer.
When do you need to notify people then?
Chris does the notification.
So Brenda,
No, I'm just asking.
no, so this is not a formal hearing. A sketch plan is an informal meeting with the developer. When they come to preliminary, which would be the next step of this, that's when it needs to be warned and the neighbors notified.
Okay, I was wondering what the rules were on that. Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ted.
Did I hear that 10,000 square feet is 2/3 of an acre?
No, 0.23.
0.23. Okay, all right, thanks. Yeah, I misheard that because that didn't sound right to me. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Do I? I don't have them.
So, Brenda, I've forgotten that you're an adjoiner, so you probably ought not to be voting. Well, seriously.
It's too late. You didn't notify me about the hearing. Why can't I vote?
No,
It
no.
doesn't really matter.
Because, well,
I will sort that out before the next meeting, when the actual hearing occurs. I will let you know well in advance, Brenda,
Let's not-
if it falls under conflict of interest with the town.
well, an adjoiner has a potential to.
it's like-
We're not voting on anything tonight, but if you're an adjoiner, that means you could be a potential opponent. Any adjoiner could. So that should probably be something we should all stay away from, just automatically and recuse ourselves. Any other questions from the board? I can't see you all, so speak up if, okay. Yeah, Jeff's okay. Is there anybody from the public who has a question? Okay, well, then we'll close this hearing, and the next step will be an application for preliminary approval. And it's going to be straight subdivision, not combined review with any other zoning permit. All right.
What do you mean it's a straight review?
What's that?
I don't understand. It's a major subdivision, right?
Yeah, so that's correct. There'll be 2 reviews, preliminary and final.
Oh, okay. Understand.
Yeah, I mean, we can do, well, we're confirming the law. Probably good for the minutes to reflect, although probably not necessary either, that all those in agreement that this is a major subdivision under our bylaws, say aye.
I,
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, so that's unanimous, and as I say, it's not discretionary, this is commercial development, so it's an automatic. All right, next up is, I guess maybe we should do we have the 2 Stony Hill Properties permits. Permit number 21-301 is for a conditional use approval for a light industrial use, and then the permit 21-401 is the first approval for subdivision. We had the sketch plan review for this project on the 13th. So this is also a major, as we decided last week or 2 weeks ago. So that requires preliminary and final, although they can be collapsed pretty, they can happen quickly. So my thought, folks, is to have do the conditional use review, because my understanding, Kevin Harper, is that there's you've got a proposed tenant ready to go, and you want to get the building up and running. In the meantime, there aren't any other buildings yet, right? And so we can go forward on the conditional use, and in the meantime, the subdivision process can proceed on a sort of a parallel track. Does that make sense?
Kevin, you're muted.
Sure. Are you saying in this meeting, we can look at the subdivision subsequent to the conditional use, or?
Well, we can do preliminary, we can do the preliminary subdivision review as part of this meeting as well. But my point is major subdivisions require two hearings. They just do. And but I don't see any reason why we can't handle the conditional use approval concurrently.
Right.
And you can get going on that, because you don't have you're going to build that one building, and in the meantime,
Right.
there's
Yeah,
no need to subdivide until you get another building.
fair enough.
Okay,
Sounds great. Thank you.
so Ted, it's all your fault. You let me get through the Clark one. Sleep at the switch, I tell you. Anybody, Kevin, are you going to testify tonight? And Jamie?
Sure.
Okay, so raise your right hand up and repeat after me. I solemnly swear or affirm
I solemnly swear or affirm.
that the evidence that I shall give before this development review board, I'll just do the whole thing and then you can say I do, it's easier. I solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence that I shall give before this development review board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
solemnly swear and affirm.
Thank you. All right, so why don't we do the conditional use piece first, and give us as much detail about the proposed conditional use, Kevin or Jamie or both, and the board can ask questions about that, and we can go through the general and specific review for conditional use, and then we can go ahead and look at the subdivision, get the preliminary approval or review done. And if any issues pop up, then you can fix them or address them before the final.
Sure. Jamie, do you want to lead, or?
That'd be fine.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay.
So we did just have our sketch plan review 2 weeks ago, so I'm not sure how familiar you all still are with the project. I'd be more than happy to kind of go back through the summary of the project if you'd like, but otherwise we can get into the specifics of the project.
Is it, board members, do you want a quick recap of the project, or are you good to have Jamie just forge ahead? John?
I have, I wouldn't mind a little recap, but a quick question on the list of the links to the various Stony Hill property documents, Chris, is there anything new here that we haven't seen?
No,
Okay, good, because I read them all well last time. I just wanted to make sure I bring my attention to anything new first, but
Okay, Brenda?
thank you.
We didn't go over the minutes, and there's something in the minutes that we will have to sort out sooner or later, I think.
Yeah.
Because if you look
Okay.
at lines 80 and 81, it sounds like Lot D, which is 3.41 acres, it sounds like the whole of it is an archaeologically sensitive area to remain undisturbed.
Well, we can
And
correct.
so that
we'll
needs,
correct-
perhaps
We'll
need,
correct. Go
that
ahead, we'll-
probably needs to be sorted out before it comes,
Yeah.
somebody reads it and says, oh, why are you building on that?
Well,
lot?"
that's why we're not approved, that's not why we're not approving the minutes tonight, for one reason. Is because they need to be reviewed carefully. So Jamie, why don't you take us once around the block with, in an expeditious way on the project, please?
Sure. Is it possible, Chris, that you can pop up a site plan that I can just refer to?
yep, give me just 1 second. Will this one be adequate? Or would you rather have the other one with the zones on it? Yeah, let me get the other one because that's the building envelopes. Hang on.
Yeah,
That'd be better.
yeah, I think so.
I think that one will be more helpful.
Sure.
Yep.
So in a nutshell, what this project is consisting of is a proposed business park behind the existing fire station at the end of Firehouse Drive, which is just off from West Street. And this, what you're looking at now, is the proposed subdivision map, which includes 4 new lots. Lot A has a proposed building named Building A that's just under 25,000 square feet. This is the one that would probably be constructed first. This is the one that's furthest along in the development, as the other 2 don't have any designs associated with them yet. This use would be a light manufacturing facility. And we do have elevation drawings as well as some renderings done by the architect to illustrate what that would look like. The entire parcel has been developed to the stage where we have septic design, stormwater design, we have site lighting, we have an extension of Firehouse Drive that extends from the northern boundary all the way to the shaded portion that you see within the parcel down by Lot C and Lot D, exactly right down in there. Lot D, that isn't entirely an archaeological protected area. It's just the hatched portion that the cursor is circulating around now. Lot D has been created as more of a functional lot. It's not a building lot. It contains all the infrastructure for the wastewater and the stormwater discharges. So that is a lot that will be utilized specifically for utilities that the other 3 lots will equally pay for in a proportional rate. So Lot B, like we mentioned before, also has a building footprint associated with it. However, that building hasn't been designed. That's just under 22,000 square feet. Again, no architectural designs are provided with that just because the use may vary depending on who that tenant might be. And the same goes for Lot C. That building hasn't been designed as of yet, but essentially we wanted to provide an adequate footprint so that tenant, whoever is interested in Lot C, has a general idea of what their constraints are.
Jamie, does it make any sense to zero in on building A with some side views, or, you know, a way to perceive the building from the street perspective?
Yeah, that would be great. Chris, I
I have-
believe you have those drawings, those architectural elevations.
Are you seeing those now?
Yeah,
Yep.
and there may be some color ones in there, but I'm not sure.
I didn't have color ones. These are the only, I have this one and then this
Okay.
angle here.
Okay,
So I have some color ones. I could email to you, Chris, if that would be efficient, if you wanted to see those and share those. If that's too difficult at this time, that's fine.
Let's go through, if we need to bring the color in, we will. If
Okay.
the board feels that they would like to see a more colored version, I will go that road. If this is adequate, we'll continue down this road.
Sure, I can paint the picture in your minds. The building panels themselves are going to be a dark red color, and then you'll have trim and the doors in a dark green color. But this elevation that you're looking at, this elevation that you're looking at.
right?
So the elevation profile on the bottom of this page of A31, that's going to be essentially the face that's facing the road, the main access drive going through the middle of the business park. So you'll see the main entrance on the far left with a canopy above it. You'll have the windows, you'll have some screening of some HVAC. And then on the far right, you'll see that's where the loading dock area is going to be. The staircase you can see for pedestrian access to the building from the loading dock. Truck drivers mostly, or loading equipment, loaders. The elevation above that, this is looking from the parking lot that's located to the south of Building A. And so this, you can see the front entrance area on the right-hand corner of that profile. Exactly right there, that's the main entrance. And again, this is looking from that parking lot at Building A. And then if you look at the other drawn elevations, so this would be looking at the top elevation profiles, looking at the Building A from the truck maneuvering area and the loading dock area on the left side. So you can see there's a little bit of a drop down elevation on that left side. That's so that trucks can back into that space and be at finished floor elevation with the back of their trailer. And then you'll see a small retaining wall just to the right of that man door, exactly. And then that elevation to the right of that is a little bit higher grade, and that's going to be utilized for smaller commercial vehicles, vans, with that loading door at grade, exactly. The elevation to the bottom, that's from the far side, we'll call it, looking from the west side of the building at the building. And you can see there's several HVAC units on the back. Those are solar panels, awnings in the middle of that building elevation, exactly. And then you'll see the one loading door, vehicle loading door and man door just to the right of that, exactly. And again, all the main panels are dark red with the trim and the door panels being dark green.
What about a sort of a footprint from above to see the parking area and the sidewalks and the main street coming through with parallel parking, et cetera?
Sure.
Maybe
So-
back to that original blown up, I don't know.
So it
Yeah.
might be helpful. This is difficult to see due to the hatching and the shading.
Do you want me to
have
pull
the
up one of
zoning
your other
permit?
drawings, Jamie?
Yeah, if you have the zoning permit drawings that were part
I
of the
do.
middle package,
It's this one.
and you could use any of the like 4 through 9.
Yep. You good with that one?
Yeah, we can do this one.
Yeah,
We're
bring
gonna-
that, expand that, bring it up, please.
Yep. This.
So just to call it out, the yellow shaded portion would be the town right-of-way / easement area that they would be responsible for maintaining or at least having access to. So the town will eventually be taking over the Firehouse Drive entrance or access drive. And then also maintaining some plowing in the parking lot, which is above or below Building A, south of Building A. So there's a stretch right there that will be plowed by the town. That area has the wastewater utilities as well as some stormwater utilities below grade. You'll see the shaded portion stretching to the west and to the north. That again is stormwater. And then to the far left corner, northwest corner,
Yeah,
it's a stormwater pond. So Chris, if you move your cursor to the left, yeah, right there. That's the stormwater pond collection area and discharge area. So on the site, it collects all the runoff from the impervious, captures it through catch basins, conveys it through underground pipe network, and then outlets into a large pit, right where the cursor is, to be infiltrated into the ground.
and then maybe you could show the septic area for the whole campus.
Sure. And what you're looking at, if you go to the far left north of the page, you can see,
Sorry, I clicked. My bad.
yep. So right where Chris's cursor is now, that is the septic disposal field area. That lot was purchased by Stony Hill specifically to utilize as a wastewater discharge area. And it has the capacity of 4,800 gallons per day, and which translates to a maximum of 320 employees. And that is assuming traditional domestic sewage. If there was some higher wastewater strength, then that would have to be reevaluated and re-permitted through the state.
Give me that employee number again, Jamie.
A maximum of 320 employees.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
That's for the whole campus.
Correct. And that allocation can vary between buildings. If building A, for instance, doesn't have to be equally divided amongst the 3 buildings.
Yeah, there's just one system, one wastewater and one stormwater system for the whole campus. So all the property owners or building owners or tenants would have a responsibility to pay their proportionate share of maintenance on the systems, taxes, insurance and such. And that lot 4 that we saw from the beginning where all these utilities are as part of that association. That's where all the utilities are functioning.
Right. One thing I would like to show, Chris, if you can select a different sheet number, I would say move forward 1 sheet. What are we on now? C5, maybe do C6 or even C7.
What are we looking for, Jamie?
There you go.
I just wanted to show the proposed paved areas, which we have on this sheet, so this is
There you
fine.
go.
And bring it up a little more if you don't mind, Chris.
Zoom in.
And so the purpose I just wanted to illustrate here was the amount of parking that we've accommodated in this proposed plan. We have a parking lot to the northeast of building B, essentially the north of building B, correct? We also, and I think that's like a 26 or a 28 space. I can't see the number from here. But overall, we have 152 parking spaces available at full build out. And I wanted to mention that the intent is to build parking as needed. So essentially start out with maybe not a minimum number, but an adequate number for the use of the building. So for example, where Chris's cursor is, there's some perpendicular parking that is on the street of the Firehouse Drive extension where he's circling now. There's also a parking lot south of building A, which he's circling now. And then there's some additional parking to the north of building B. That's an entire parking lot area. And then if you scroll to between building B and building C, that is also a parking area. Now, what you'll also note is to the west of building B, there's a hatched or shaded area. That has also been designed as a parking area, but for future use as needed. So initially that would remain as green space. And should the use of building B either expand or require additional parking to satisfy their needs, then that could be constructed at a later time. Same kind of goes for the parking lot south of building A. There's a shaded portion, a little bit higher, Chris. Right there, that's contiguous to that parking area. That is also designed as additional future use parking as necessary. And then in front of building C, it's a little hard to see at this scale, at this zoom level, but there is also parking available to the west of building C. There's like 5 or 6 spaces, actually a little lower, Chris.
Right there.
Yeah.
So there's parking available there for, 15-minute drop-bys or drop-offs or stop-ins, or full-time parking, however they want to use that as. And then in addition to that, in the archaeologically sensitive area, the intent is not to actually have to build this, but we wanted to have the design in place if required, that if we had needed overflow parking for whatever tenant or use, that we would get permission from VDHP, the Vermont Division of Historic Preservation, to construct a geogrid, which means basically sitting on the surface and have those cells, those plastic grids that would be filled with soil, and parking would be on top of that in that location. Again, that would be only absolutely if necessary, and it would require additional permissions from the Vermont Division of Historic Preservation.
As Jamie described, the archaeologists would require that we grind this when we cut a tree, we grind the stump. We don't disturb the earth around it. We don't pull the stumps up, and backfill as needed on the slope, and then lay this geogrid on top, so that if someday someone wants to peel off the parking lot and see what's under there, they can do it.
Correct.
And Chris, if you could circle that gray area that is the archaeologically sensitive area, that it's the hashed lines, or is it the gray area, Jamie? I'm forgetting.
So it's the there we go. So that's a much better view. The dark boundary, if you follow that, that's the archaeologically sensitive area that was defined.
So we imagine that would be left, wooded and out there on the very southeast corner where Chris was hanging out there. Just the views are gorgeous to the down the valley and east into the into the gap. And this I'm sorry, the trail. Can you indicate the location of the trail around the whole campus? Yep, that's it. Around.
Yep, and you'll see that's an existing trail what he was on, and then right now where he's at is a revised, relocated trail portion, which kicks the hiker out onto the waterline easement area and keeps them essentially still on the site, but out of the way of whatever might be happening for building A in their processes.
And this dashed line over here, this is the existing Riverwalk Trail that's over here off on the side here.
Correct.
Then it comes up into can you go back down, Chris, to show where it comes up onto Stony Hill? Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
And what you'll see with this, you can see where the existing trail kind of is now with that dash line that goes around that proposed stormwater pond. The relocated line would actually be on the south side of that stormwater pond to the north, Chris, if you head back towards building B, correct. So there's a dash line, a little harder to see, but at the southern end of that pond, that's where the new relocated trail would be.
Yeah, that pond is likely going to be over on the housing property above it. That'll leave more room on this commercial lot and be likely where the path goes.
Correct. And then as far as site lighting goes, there's a power pole that's existing to the north on the existing Firehouse Drive, just across from the fire station. And if you want to scroll up, we can show that pole location.
Trying.
Maybe.
The laptop's slow all of a
It's all
sudden.
right. It's not totally necessary, but I just wanted to give an inkling of where we were taking power from. And that electrical feed is going to be continuing down the east side of Firehouse Drive, and then coming into the business park and underground and servicing all three buildings with the three-phase. And power also will be supplying the site lighting. Will have controls on the southern end of the parcel and the business park, which will essentially have both a photo cell, which will control site lighting, as well as an astronomical clock, a timer clock, that will give the town complete control over when they want the lights to come on and when they want them to shut off. It'll have automatic daylight savings time adjustments. So they'll have complete control over the lighting on the site. All the site lighting is LED with it's fully shielded down facing lighting. We tried to stay under a 3000K color just to keep it pretty soft and not like a bright white light. So we do have all the proposed street lights designed, and it may change slightly, give or take an area here or there, depending on what, how things go with construction, but overall it's complete design.
And they'll be very similar in design and look as we did for the firehouse parking areas.
John has a question.
Regarding lighting, are there sort of wall washer sconce type fixtures outside around the building, all the way around the building, or how is that done?
Yes. So what we did for the Act 250 permitting that we submitted, we had to provide a site lighting plan. And building A does have some wall sconces. I refer to them as wall packs. And so that will also be downward facing, and they will have some wall packs on each face so that the parking areas and the truck maneuvering areas can be well lit, and so there won't be any safety issues or concerns. However, they're not going to be upward facing so that they would light up the sky.
And will there be, will the lighting be sort of localized, or, sometimes a lot of outdoor lighting may attempt to light a really big parking lot or field or whatever with a couple of lights, so it's just shining. It doesn't sound like that's what you're doing.
It is not what we're trying to do here. So it's pretty localized. The photometrics really are within the area of the pole itself. We have multiple poles scattered across the site. So we're trying to keep it, tame, if you will.
Good. I'm a big fan of that. One question I have that is both related to the elevations, just as you see them, but also the lighting scheme, is how this appears from below for travelers on the road. You're up on the hill, of course, and there's, I think, a lot of trees, if I recall, on that slope between the property generally and the road. So I'm not overly concerned about this, but I'm curious about the view shed impact of coming up the road into Bristol. What are we going to see? Winter, summer, I don't think you're going to see anything, but whatever. And then also because people are underneath any lighting, they're down under coming up on those buildings sort of. And I'm wondering if that needs to be considered in any way for lighting, even if it's down lighting. The road is below.
So one thing that we did as part of our design is the architect included some natural vegetative screening, northern cedars along, if you look, Chris, to the stormwater pond area on the Building A site, all along that edge where the proposed trail is. There's going to be some cedars that are planted there to assist with screening from the West Street or Stony Hill Road.
Chris, if you go up to the northernmost boundary, just to the east of the stormwater pond, you'll see a bunch of black little circles there. Yeah, that replicates what we did next door to the firehouse between the residential property to the west and the parking lot of the firehouse. They're about 15 feet tall, about 5 feet apart. They just grow right into each other. You can't see the trailers on the other side of that hedge. It's sort of a hedge. And we're imagining that's, I think your question was, if you're looking from the Main Street or you're coming into Firehouse Drive, what are you going to see is a wall of trees.
Actually, what I was talking about is from down on the state highway, way below, looking up at the site. What will you see?
Wow, boy. Yeah.
And in our updated plans, we do have some landscaping screening. This plan doesn't reflect it, but continuing from that hedgerow up by the stormwater pond along that pathway, but hugging the paved area, there's going to be some additional screening along that portion as well.
Right.
And Jamie, we don't have a landscape plan yet, or we do?
We do. We submitted one for the Act 250 permit, but it has not been submitted to the town.
Okay, so when we get around to final plat consideration, you can include the landscape plan at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would only remind you as an aesthetic thing that trees rarely grow in perfect straight lines, but you can do a lot if you think about how the view shed overlaps, and they don't have to be in a line like a fence, and they still totally cover the view shed you're trying to cover. So
Yeah.
another question I had is whether on this building, I'm just thinking about building A at the moment, is there any plan to have any kind of equipment, ventilation or otherwise on top of this building?
So there's proposed to have some solar panels on the rooftop of this building. However, their angle is pretty steep, so they're not that visually impacted. They're not recognizable quickly. The building itself is 20 feet tall, 24 from the lowest point by the loading dock. And these solar panels are angled significantly so that they're just a minor visual impact on the rooftop.
Are they
Is there-
fixed or, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, is there any ventilation or cooling or HVAC equipment on top?
I'm not completely aware of any HVAC equipment on the rooftop surface. That might be a question I'll have to answer at our next hearing, our final hearing.
Maybe Michael, are you on the mic? Do you have any?
Yes, I'm here. There's no ventilation equipment planned to be on the roof. I believe it's going to be almost entirely solar equipment. The ventilation equipment will be distributed around the perimeter of the building. The building, the elevations that we saw earlier, we have a screening for that equipment that faces the new portion of Firehouse Drive, but no ventilation on the roof.
No, that's how I remembered it as well.
Thank you.
Okay,
And
I have a question on building A. Those are fixed solar panels on the roof. They're not tracking,
Correct.
or are they? They're fixed. Between building A and where you described the trees that you're going to plant, that's not parking, is it? I mean, is that all going to be paved? Yeah, that area.
Yeah, so that will be paved. There is going to be some commercial vehicles such as vans that have access to the building. Correct. From that, there's a ramp that essentially goes up to the building finished floor elevation. And then around to the west side, you can see actually inside the building footprint, a little van that's been mocked up right there because there's an overhead door right there as well. So vehicles will need to enter into the building from that side as well.
So the majority of that area will be paved? or will
Correct.
Not?
Yes, it will.
Most of it will, okay.
And keep in mind, and I think this was sort of the goal of the meeting at this point from a conditional use perspective. This is all earth renewables. They've been up in Williston for quite a number of years, and they assemble trackers and solar panels onto trackers that they put up in people's backyards and at different sites around the state. It's as they say, while we would refer to it as manufacturing, I think if David were on this call, David Blittersdorf, who's started the company, he would say, well, yeah, but it's assembly really. So they buy steel and they buy poles and they buy controllers and they put them together in their shop. And then they deliver them to the site and erect them. So it's a solar energy company. David started Dollar Renewables, no, NRG up in actually in Bristol many years ago, and had to move out like so many companies and ended up in Heinsberg and built that amazing net zero building up there in Heinsberg for NRG to grow over the years. And then when he sold that business, he started All Earth Renewables. And so I think, which is just focused on solar panel and windmill construction, and or I should say engineering, and these put up a few windmills in the state and some down in Massachusetts. So, there'll be equipment, forklift in the backyard in that paved area. There'll be storage for panels that might come in a container load. And that's why we're trying to be very mindful of where the trail is located, the hiking trail, and what sort of shade or barrier we can put up that feels more like it belongs there than a big steel wall or a wooden barricade. We wanted to do it with trees.
I'll point out that, this falls within the category of light industry, which is a allowable use in the district. And you look at the definition of that, it mentions processing, assembly. So that what Kevin Harper described fits right in with the light industry definition.
We will have room for 6 cars to park at 3 different solar charging stations for vehicles. And my partner, David, whose building this will be for, has offered to install those as part of the project for community use as practical.
And those
Great.
will be located in the southern parking lot of Building A. There'll be 3 stalls and a single post charger unit that will operate and service those 3 stalls.
Any other, actually, clarify for me, lot D, which has it's like a big C that wraps around A and C.
So
Who's gonna own that?
So it would be owned by the association. So because there'll be, and it could well be that Building A would be owned by All Earth Renewables, but it's just as likely that Building B or C is rented from Stony Hill. So each tenant or owner would be required to be a member of the Stony Hill Association. And that would address maintenance, their pro rata share, let's say, but just for
Right.
concept, a third of the maintenance cost of taking care of those stormwater, wastewater, snow plowing, lawn mowing, just the routine stuff. And right up to, triple net fees for their proportionate share of taxes and insurance and all that sort of thing. So they would jointly own, the association would jointly own D, area
So
D.
D's gonna be common land and remain open.
Correct. It won't be touched. Now, the caveat to that, or I say they won't be touched. The only thing that could happen based on our understanding, our agreement with the state archaeologist, is that little section there of the archaeologically sensitive area could be used as additional parking if required, and if we comply with all their restrictions.
Correct.
In any event, it's gonna be held in common by however many owners of the lots there are.
Correct.
Okay. Any focusing on the preliminary subdivision review, any other questions about the layout or the infrastructure, the utilities, lighting, any of that? The considerations are on 85 and 86. I think Jamie and Kevin have touched on them all. But if there are any other questions from the board, let's get them out there now.
I have a question. Has there been any sort of feasibility, or I'm sure there has, but the building C in the back corner there, the finished floor is about 8 feet from existing grade, and that's pretty close to that steep drop off. And the constructability of that, has that actually been looked at, or did that just kind of get cited there that we can shoehorn this in?
That's a great question. And we've talked about it. And interestingly enough, from the other side, the west side, which is so close to the archaeologically sensitive area, the same issue, right? And just keep in mind that that building represents the maximum footprint that site will allow, and still have access to tractor trailer trucks and the parking where it is. I'll point out the circle just north of right there. That's another archaeologically sensitive area that we've had to shorten the parking lot there to make room for that. So all that said, if someone were to want every inch of this building, they'd have to work it from the inside out, and it would be work. And it may not be worth it, but it
Oh.
is sort of a maximum rendering.
Theoretic.
Yeah.
To answer the question directly, yes, it has been looked at and thought of, and definitely the further south and east you go, the more building you'll have exposed, and therefore the more costly that construction will be. So that person or that tenant will have to keep that in mind when designing their building.
We sort of pushed everything out to the maximum that setbacks and all the considerations. There's so many, there's layers and layers and layers here of considerations. It's an amazing amount of work, but I will say, I think this does represent sort of the max.
Right. And with that, did you come to a reasonable, what the most likely size, usable size is for that site then, with cost versus space?
No, because it could be so many things, right? If it's an office building, it's just, it really depends on what you're building, and there's no way to kind of project that degree of complexity until you have a prospective tenant, and then you sit down and you work that sort of issue over. But the goal was to determine, again, allowing for truck access and turnaround and parking spaces and setbacks from archaeologically sensitive areas, et cetera, et cetera. It can be done for sure, especially if it's a steel building. You pour a slab, you set the building on top of it. I think you could do that pretty comfortably.
Yeah, and you'll also notice down at the southeastern corner of Building C, we've tried to show the maximum footprint again by adding on a little 2,700 square foot addition if that tenant or that occupant needed that space. But again, that might not be something required, and they may choose just to stay away from that corner altogether to make things less expensive.
Josh, you had a question?
I'll keep this short. Just to reiterate the comment that I had last week, the northwestern part of Lot D is going to be in the primary view shed coming up that hill. And I hope that there's opportunities to landscape that and the leach fields don't take over from that area for the people who enjoy that approach to the town of Bristol. So I look forward to seeing that landscape plan. The second part of my comment is, and it's more out of curiosity, and again, to keep it short, are you required to put any barriers up to keep snow plows from pushing snow into the archaeologically sensitive areas? It looks like some of the approaches may encourage someone to be pushing snow into these areas. Thank you.
They are designed to have the snow pushed off the end of those parking areas. And that's why they're shown that way. So no, there's never, all the conversations I've had with the archaeologists, there's never been concern about snow as being a problem. So,
and to be clear, that's pushing snow into them. So the blade is potentially hitting the earth. And
yeah, no, I mean, the blade, given that they'd be paved, right, they'll push until they're off the pavement, and then that's where it ends. So I think that's something to have to think about for sure, but it hasn't come up is all I can say.
Just also keep in mind that any area within that boundary, the stumps cannot be removed because you don't want to have that soil disturbance. So there would be, if there was any tree clearing done, the stumps would remain. And so a plow may not want to even venture into there too far.
yeah, I've seen some plow guys get a little bit aggressive sometimes and run out 20, 25 feet to make room for the duration of the season. So you might want to keep that in mind.
No, thank
So-
you. Yep.
Any other questions related to the subdivision itself? Okay, any questions from members of the public? If so, identify who you are and where you live. Okay, I'll move for preliminary approval and which will, there'll be some, oh, let me ask one more question before I do that. What's the status of the Act 250 permit, Kevin?
The status of the which permit?
Act 250?
Jamie, I think, given that you've spoken with the Act 250, who was it, our director? No, who was it?
The district coordinator, Josh Donabedian.
Right, so why don't you share, you had sort of an informal once over with
We
him.
did. So I spoke with him and shared with him. We've also, I will say, we submitted this Act 250 application and I shared with him the plans and we did a Zoom call together and kind of went over every aspect of the plan. And his opinion was that this looks fantastic and that he does not foresee any major complications or difficulties with this application. His comment was literally, he said, applications like these, when they come into us, are like dreams come true for the district coordinators. They make their job a lot easier. So we anticipate a quick turnaround. We don't have any review officially yet. However, he did say that he was going to get to that this week, so I can reach out to him and find out.
I was just curious if you had any rough guidance on timeline for that.
Yes, so he did say that he'll be able to review this fairly soon, and that, like I said, he didn't anticipate any major complications with this application.
Okay. So I'll go back to the motion I started. I'll move that we give preliminary approval to the subdivision permit application.
I would second that.
Any debate in favor or against? Okay, all those in favor of approval of the preliminary approval of the subdivision application, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, so that's unanimous. So we've got that piece taken care of. So let's focus a little more specifically. You touched on it some, Kevin, but now we have to focus on the conditional use aspect for building A.
Mhm.
So one thing I'll point out is because this is light industry, we have a definition to follow. Is there, one of the questions is, or thresholds is, you can have up to 20% of the total structural space for retail sales. Is there any plan to have retail in this building?
No.
Well, you never know. There could be a solar panel showroom, you know?
True enough, but no.
Okay,
No, engineering and
yeah.
engineering, yep, that kind
I
of.
thought the answer was no, but I wanted to get it out there. And the other part is, we touched on a little bit, and I guess back, when you come back for the final, if you look at the definition of light industry, it says all activity and storage of raw materials or finished product is enclosed in the building or is screened from abutting properties in the public right of way. And so that looks mandatory. So it's not, I wasn't clear what outside storage, if any, there would be. But if this proposed use is going to have that, you're gonna need to deal with that as part of your screening plan.
Right, and I think that's where we were going with the trees. Milford Cushman is, I think he's still online here, has done a lot of thinking and is pretty good on the landscaping question. Milford, can you weigh in on, and Chris, did we provide any images of what we were talking about along that western boundary?
I don't believe so. I just have the 25 page document. These are all sheets out of.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, we've looked all along that, if you just move your cursor, Chris, off of that line of trees that I mentioned and down the waterline road, that's where we feel that the most attention needs to be paid in terms of a screen.
Well,
And
we have
I,
a s-
keep in mind, all the gentlemen earlier, Josh, was it, who talked about view from, coming up the mountain on the road, that's I think Livingston's property, and that's not, yeah, I mean, that's all that's got nothing to do with us, I guess. It's not on our property. So I think there's gonna be a lot of screening there. We're not gonna go in and cut trees on our property down there, and we're gonna want to keep the trail back off of the backyard of Building A, and imagine putting some screening, that's it, right, all along there.
The comment was the northwest, where the leach
Yeah,
fields are. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I gotcha, right.
So Kevin, I am here.
Thank you, Effort.
Yeah, so as Kevin mentioned earlier in this testimony, the plantings that were done on the west side of the fire station were a Niagara arborvitae. It's a very dense, thick growing American arborvitae. That's what's planned along that north side of the outdoor area to the north of Building A. Just for the record, it was my firm that was the designer of the fire station, and we handled the landscape and the permitting for that entire project. So we're seeing a little bit of what we thought was a successful solution there from the screening of the view shed of persons coming in along Firehouse Drive, heading south towards this subdivision. Okay, Kevin?
Yeah, what are those trees that are shown there along the road?
Well, the street trees along the road are a combination of white oak and thornless
Honey locust.
honey locust.
Right, yeah, those are
Which
great.
are, the honey locusts are very salt and salt and dry soil tolerant. Most of this development is on top of a gravelly soil, a non-retentive, non-water retentive gravelly soil.
So do we know whether there's going to be outdoor storage of raw material or finished product? That's what I wasn't clear about.
Yeah, I think raw material, again, think of a tracker with a steel post that gets, right? So that's a common, and a container or I won't call them structures per se, but when they bring in panels, they bring them in by the tractor trailer load, and they wouldn't go into the building. They'll sit in the backyard, right? So, and there'll be a forklift to move a pallet of that into the factory to assemble, and the finished goods will go right out onto a truck to their finished location, not stored outside.
Okay, so we don't have.
Yeah, raw materials would be.
Yes, right, so we don't have the landscape plan yet, but we don't need to have it tonight per se. But we can impose a condition which is otherwise required by the light industrial definition, that outdoor storage of raw materials got to be screened from public right of way and abutting properties. The good thing is the abutting property is property D for most of it, and that's you guys. So and the rest is whatever. Stony Hill is so much lower than a lot of this. I doubt that screening from the public highway is going to be difficult to accomplish.
Right. I would agree.
Does anybody have any questions of regarding the the proposed use of this building for light manufacturing for all earth renewables? Okay, so let's work our way through the considerations. Let's see. I haven't memorized my numbers yet from in the new ordinance.
Page 42.
Yeah, oh, I'm really in the wrong spot then.
42.
Yeah, I was much deeper in. Okay,
It's 43.
43. All right.
That's the list, Joe, correct?
Yep. So 355 and 356 are the general and specific criteria. We'll look at the general criteria that we have to consider first. First is capacity of community facilities. Conditional use shall not overburden or exhaust existing or planned municipal facilities or services. Valerie, there's no issue with, is there any issue with municipal services being overtaxed by this development?
She's still here.
There she is.
I'm here, and I affirm the oath that was expressed earlier. No, there are no concerns.
Okay, next is, does anybody have any questions for Valerie, the applicants, regarding community facilities? Okay, character of the area is next. Conditional use may not by its nature, scale, or conduct cause an undue adverse change in the character of the area, as the area would exist if fully developed in so you compare it to what the area would be like if it was were to be fully developed in accordance with the town plan.
Right.
So does anyone have any concerns about the fit? This is in the village mixed district, right?
Correct.
And for that district, the objective and guidelines are promote opportunities for employment and housing within easy reach of the walkable core of the village. Promote mixed-use development to extend Bristol's village to the west and south and offer a mix of residential, commercial, and light manufacturing opportunities within the village planning area. And then talks about Pine Street, which doesn't matter. It includes the town-owned property at Stony Hill. Mixed-use residential or commercial office parks can be developed as planned unit developments. So that's what the zone in which this development will take place is established for. So when we think about character of the area, we consider what the area would be. We have to sort of use our imaginations. If it were fully built out as village mixed district, would this cause undue adverse impact to the rest of the area? That's our consideration. Anybody have any questions or issues regarding that criteria?
I just have a positive issue, which is I think this is in keeping with the zone. And while it's something a little new, we have to remember the long-term history of this site is as gravel pit, which is heavy industry. So I think if you're headed for a light industrial future, this is a good site for that. And while this isn't part of this development per se, the housing element of this overall property redevelopment, just seems like a really appropriate use for this piece of land to me. So I would say it's a very positive mesh with the mixed zone and the character of the area.
Any other comments on that criteria? Okay, traffic impacts, we didn't talk too much about this. Estimated traffic generated by conditional use shall not exhaust or exceed the capacity of the road to accept increased traffic unless the applicant agrees to a condition requiring the applicant to upgrade the road. Here, the feeder road is going to be built to town standards and then taken over as a public highway. Any issues that people want clarity about regarding the West Street? Handling the traffic coming in and out, now's the time. Okay. Compliance with regulations, conditional use must comply with regulations in effect at the time of the submission of the application. Well, no issue there. Because it's come in under our new regulations. Renewable energy resources, conditional use shall not excessively inhibit or restrict access to or the use of renewable natural resources, including but not necessarily limited to water and sunlight for energy generation. So we're going to have solar, we're going to have some charging stations. We're going to have regeneration of rainfall and storm water. Any other issues or comments regarding the last of the criteria for general review? Okay, then we can move on to site-specific criteria. The first one, which is section 356, the applicant must demonstrate that circulation between the site and the street network is adequate to accommodate the traffic proposed. Parking and loading should conform to the standards of these regulations. Chris, they're okay on meeting the parking standards, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got excess parking capacity. And the parking is broken up. The parking is broken up on the property. So does anybody see any issues or have comments about the traffic circulation, the way the parking is laid out, those issues? Okay, safe pedestrian connections to on-site parking areas and to existing planned pedestrian facilities located on adjacent properties or along public roads. Access at the property edges should be coordinated with existing and planned development to provide pedestrian connection between uses. We've got sidewalks on the feeder road, right? And then we've got a trail, a nature trail that's being continued and relocated somewhat, but as far as walking, getting from the buildings to West Street, you've got sidewalks all the way, right, Jamie?
Correct.
That's correct. And access a crosswalk to the firehouse as well.
Does anybody have any questions or comments regarding pedestrian connections to the parking or the trail?
I think it's worth mentioning that, yeah, there will be, did I say that, a crosswalk to the rec park and such?
Yeah.
Some way across West Street there, yeah.
Oh, okay. Applicant, next criteria.
I could jump in on that subject quickly.
Yep.
The crosswalk across West Street will not be part of this project specifically. That'll have to come at a like a later phase, but it is planned and anticipated. And also the town has committed to keeping the sidewalks plowed, just the same as the other sidewalks in the village.
Great. Does anyone have any questions or comments about pedestrian access and safety? Okay, applicants shall demonstrate they have incorporated landscaping features, trees, shrubs, fences, walls, gardens, open space, or other features into a design to reduce any impacts their use of the property might have on neighboring properties and will enhance the appeal of the use proposed. Incorporate street trees along the highway to establish a canopy and provide for traffic calming. So we've got white oaks and honey locusts along the feeder road, and we've talked a lot about screening with arborvitae Any other comments or questions regarding landscaping? We are understanding that the plan isn't finalized, but there'll be a condition to meet the definition of required in light industrial.
Yeah, I have a question. Not so much question, just reiterating.
Or comment, that's fine.
Yeah, my concern earlier, this site is sort of like an island in the sky, you know what I mean? It's visible from places, elsewhere. You look up at it from a number of places in town. And so I will be keen to look at the lighting plan and the landscaping plan. Not so much for how you perceive the development when you're in it or immediately adjacent to it, but from afar.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, John, and I don't think it's something we've contemplated. What you actually see from the Creamy Stand, for example, or out on West Street.
Yeah, or from Evergreen Cemetery, looking up east, up the hill that way.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, on your left is a massive, ancient gravel pit the road's about to fall into. So you have everywhere to go from there, positive. But it's worth thinking about. It's worth thinking about.
Yeah.
Because right now there's no lighting out there, and if it's night lit and it's an island in the sky, a promontory that sticks out and juts out and is going to get some clearing and have buildings on it, then the question is it a night glowing parking lot seen from a quarter mile away?
So if I were going to comment on that, I would just say that as far as building A, since that would probably have the most impact on that visual from Stony Hill Road, looking, to the east, the lighting that's been designed on that building has been all sconce lighting on the backside, on that west side, as well as the north side. All the pole lighting, if you will, that's higher up in the air, that is all on the street, the Firehouse Drive extension. So that'll be further away from your scenic road corridor.
Yeah,
And the building would block it. Is that right?
Correct. Most of it.
Yeah, I don't think these things are hard to tackle, or at least get a sense of whether there is much of an impact, if any. It's just that a lot of times that doesn't get done until after it's all built. And then you realize at night you have this shining city on a hill sort of popping out of the landscape,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well,
that's definitely a concern of mine.
Yeah, those are good points, John. And I guess the beauty of the sort of unusual procedural approach we've got tonight is, since we have this in conjunction with a subdivision for which a landscaping plan will be forthcoming. Kevin and Jamie have heard all of this, and we've got, as a board, we'll have oversight down the road a piece, not too far away, where we'll be able to take a hard look at those issues, and if there's some tweaks required, we'll have the authority and opportunity to do it.
Yeah, I looked at the lighting equipment that you had in your package, and it's pretty much top-notch stuff that allows dimming, and it reacts to the amount of light at any given moment, and it's programmable, so it's as good as it can get, really. So I'm not too concerned, but I'll be looking for that kind of stuff.
Yep. So we'll be certainly able to tackle that as part of the final plat review for the subdivision, even though we don't have it right now.
Yep. We'll be able to provide more detail.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Outdoor storage of trash. We haven't talked about that. I don't think shall be screened or hidden from public view. What do we have for dumpsters?
Boy, Jamie, I don't remember locating dumpsters. Do you?
We
Milford?
haven't located any dumpsters at this point. To this level, I've just assumed that there'd be a dumpster pad located somewhere on building A's site. Again, I can't speak to building B or C, not knowing the full design of that yet. But wherever we would locate that, it would have to be screened. Nobody, I think everybody agrees that it's unsightly to look at a dumpster, so we would want that to be screened regardless of its location.
Yeah, so that can just be, that can be a condition in the CU approval. We're just stating something that's otherwise required, and it's okay that you don't have a place yet, because when you do, you're just gonna have to take that into account.
Correct.
Right.
Next one, building design. The applicant should demonstrate how the structure fits within and adds to the character of the area in which it is proposed. New construction should be compatible in design, scale, mass, height with significant buildings within the immediate area. I guess the buildings in the immediate area are the fire station. Is the fire station.
You can't miss that.
Yeah, so I guess, does anybody feel there's a compatibility problem or issue with building A with respect to the surrounding building? I mean, it's different from the houses on West Street, but we're in a mixed use district, so it doesn't need to look like a house.
I will assume the adjoining landowners have been notified.
Yes.
Okay, and they're not here tonight, so,
No, and they'll be notified again at the final hearing as well.
okay, thank you.
That is correct.
So this is a lot of the village planning district. Buildings and associated site design shall reinforce rather than destabilize a defined streetscape. Building should be oriented to front upon the road, which building A is, and it's on its own streetscape. So it seems like site plan should incorporate mentions landscaping again. It mentions energy again, which we've already touched, renewable energy, which we've already touched upon. So does anyone have any comments or issues, concerns regarding how it fits in, the development fits in as a defined streetscape?
Kevin, I'd like to make a comment on the architecture. I think
Yeah,
that was
sure.
the previous point. I
Sure.
would say that this is a different vernacular to this area. But
yeah.
I see this as an independent district, and I think it fits in well and is very appropriate for the light industrial use. So.
Yep, yeah, I would agree. And since we're supposed to think about what the district would look like, village mixed, in the event it were fully built out, it seems compatible on that score. You got to start from somewhere, and it may not be compatible if all you have is our residential houses and a fire station. But when you think about what's designed to go there, seems like it fits.
Agreed.
Stormwater, which all compliant there, Jamie?
Correct. We've submitted to the state of Vermont, the stormwater permitting applications. So we expect to have pretty easy review based on the fact that we are infiltrating all the stormwater runoff back to the ground. And that's what the state prefers as their preferred treatment alternative.
Yep. Exterior lighting is next. It has to conform with section 752. We haven't looked at 752 specifically, but I'm sure John Moyers has. John.
I think this will be easily, I think this will easily comply as long as the forethought is given to it.
Yeah, so there are some specific requirements in 752. As far as the poles have to be lower than the building whose area they illuminate or not be greater than 15 feet tall, whichever is less. So you're on board with that, Jamie?
That's correct. 15
right.
foot is the maximum height of the pole and the light driver.
You just basically want to keep the light on the property and you don't want to show anybody a bare bulb or filament, and then you're 99% there.
Yep. Yeah, it looks like the remaining criterion 752 we've already talked about, so we
Yeah,
haven't had anything.
I mean, you do have a challenge here a little bit because the site, and this is, I'm really thinking of building A at the moment, but it occurs to me that later when B and C are built, presumably, you know, people will look up at it from far below, hundreds of feet below, a couple hundred feet below, you know, like from the South
Orange
Street
Lane.
side, and then also on the Evergreen Cemetery side, basically. But again, with a little forethought, and you guys have a lot of forethought, you shouldn't have any trouble with that.
Anybody else have any comments or concerns about lighting, exterior lighting?
I have a question about the last point there about turning lights off after the close of business.
Yep.
Except you need security. What do you anticipate? How do you anticipate dealing with that?
So lights won't be turned off. There will always be continual lighting at dark hours or dusk hours. That will be controlled by the astronomical clock, the timer clock, and as well as a photo cell, which basically is a photovoltaic cell that sits on top of one of the poles and, you know, distinguishes what darkness level it is before the light is triggered on. So those two controllers will determine the light on and light off time. And again, like was mentioned before, they are programmable. So you can decide maybe just at dusk you want the lights to come on, or maybe full darkness you want lights to come on. You can control that.
Can you control the brightness there as well?
They are dimmable.
Right. So, and that is programmable. So, John, I think to your point, you could stand at whatever, you know, the graveyard or wherever you might be, where you can see the lights and you know, turn them down.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an example of something intended well but misapplied, if you look at the lighting, LED pointable night shaded or sky shaded lighting that they put in around Shaw's a few years ago, unfortunately it's all tipped up so it shines, you know, many properties over into the windows of all the neighbors. So it's the right thing improperly applied, you know, improperly installed and not properly adjusted once installed, and that just spoils the whole thing. I mean, it's too bad. So anyway, I know you guys are careful, but I just want to flag that as a concern of mine.
Yeah.
All right, any signage? We haven't talked about signs. There might be signs around at the entrance to the buildings to identify the buildings. Nothing out on West Street.
It's a boy, you know, that now that you mentioned it, it has come up, and we never, Milford, correct me, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, but Michael, I don't remember having a detailed conversation about signage at all.
No, we didn't, Kevin, and we'll come back for the next session with that.
You know, something, you know, a truck driver has to figure out where the heck they're going, right? So does there need to be something, should there be something out on West Street that says this is Stony Hill Business Park or whatever it's called? Or is it just a street sign, Firehouse Lane, and that should be enough with their GPS to get them to turn right or left? And then I would imagine out in front of each building, they should have, you know, just like over at Bristol Works, there should be a sign that has there's some similarity across campus from sign to sign, but has the individual company's logo and description or something on it.
So it sounds like we're not that far enough down the road yet to understand what we're going to do there, but I will note that section 743 applies to signs in the village mixed district. So whatever ultimately gets done, you've got a specific signage standard that you're gonna have to comply with at that point, we can
Okay.
rely on the sign
And I,
bylaws for that when the time comes.
You have a world-class landmark in the firehouse.
Turn at the
That's true.
firehouse
That's true,
onto Firehouse Drive.
yeah. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I think we skipped over number 9.
We did, thank you. Noise should be regulated in accordance with 751. So this is all the manufacturing is taking place inside. Noise is measured at the property line, shall not be excessive out there. There's specific requirements for primarily residential districts, which this is not. What do we, and I think you mentioned there's nothing on the roof as far as HVAC. Do you have any, Damie or Kevin, can you provide any color on noise for us? There's a mixture.
yeah.
Any,
I would just say, David probably could speak to this best if he were here, but I believe that a majority of the manufacturing and assembly is taking place inside the building. So there shouldn't be a considerable noise factor coming from building A's use.
Yeah, the doors will be closed. It's extremely well insulated. These are panels that are made with the insulation in it. And yeah, I don't see it as an issue. And the HVAC or air source heat pumps, aren't they, gentlemen? They sit outside and hum.
They're pretty quiet.
Yeah.
They're electric.
we're not in any overlay district, or,
Nope.
yeah. Okay, so an hours of operation shall conform to the standards of 754. Generally encouraged, so this is precatory, not mandatory. Should be limited to standards for similar enterprises. Hours of operation are generally encouraged not to begin earlier than 6 a.m. and end by 9 p.m. Development Review Board may expand those hours to accommodate specific types of businesses and to allow for additional shifts within the village mixed district or the commercial district. So there's quite a bit of flexibility there. Any insight from anybody on the applicant side about projected hours of operation?
I think it'd be very safe to say it would certainly be within that range.
Okay. And that is it, since we're not, we don't have any overlay districts here. So so that concludes the 356 specific site-specific criteria. I think does anybody have any further questions or comments from anybody on the board? Anybody from the public? If there is anyone, have any questions or comments for the applicant? Okay, I'll make a motion to provide conditional use approval for building A, all earth renewables to assemble solar panels and related renewable energy equipment, subject to conditions that any outdoor storage of raw materials or finished products be screened from abutting properties and the public right of way, and that any outdoor storage of trash also be screened. Those are the two conditions I have. If it, I guess what we should do is, does anyone have any additional conditions? We could always take them one at a time and add by vote if needed, but might as well get them all out there if we can. Keeping in mind that the landscape plan is going to give us a lot more of we're gonna get a second bite at the apple when there's a landscape plan. Okay, then those are the two conditions I have. Can someone second the motion?
I second it.
All right, any debate about on the conditional use approval for building A, all renewables energy? Light manufacturing or light industry? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Motion passes. We'll get a decision written up, but you've got your green light, or David has his green light. And we'll see you back in probably the not too distant, well, for the final plat approval, you got to have your other permits, so.
Yeah, and the soonest that, just because of notifications and everything, it's actually a month out before I can get another hearing. So May 25 is what I have you scheduled for. Will that be adequate time, Jamie?
Well, that doesn't
Yeah, I
mean-
mean, we're looking to do it as soon as possible. So if that's the soonest available, that's what it'll have to be.
Well, doesn't he have to show us the state permits first?
They have to have,
Before the major, for the final major?
I can't remember what they said on, I think that has to at least be showed that they've been applied for, they can be conditioned of. Hang on,
Well, let's see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's be clear with them.
100%.
All about
Applicant shall,
Major requirements for approval of major.
yeah, that's what I'm looking at. For final, shall demonstrate that the proposed subdivision has either received final wastewater from the state of Vermont, or where the applicant has demonstrated the state permit application has been filed, the DRB may issue a final decision conditioned upon the applicant securing the permit.
Right.
Yeah.
Same with stormwater.
Yeah, because we've got to get bidding and we've got a long ways to go. That would help, the conditional on these permits being received.
So where, yeah, so it doesn't say anything about a land use permit for Action 50, so it just mentions wastewater. Where are we in the permit process on that, Jamie?
That has been submitted and is under review.
Okay, and you've got your stormwater permit, correct?
That's correct. That has also been submitted and is under review.
Okay. All right, so we're not, as far as scheduling, we're not dependent on actually having those in hand. We can just approve with conditions that those be obtained before you're gonna get a CO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we can see you back here pretty quickly. Well, you gotta get that landscape part figured out. And if you can get us a good plan on that, maybe with some elevations or artist rendering about what it's gonna look like from, say, Stony Hill, looking up the issues that John raised, that would be helpful. It's a bird's eye view, looking at it from the viewpoint of the sun is not always, it's hard for a lot of people to visualize. I'd rather, if possible, have something that's gonna show us, if Milford can put it together, something that shows us what it's gonna look like from the various vantage points.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, everyone, for all your.
Valerie,
Can I ask a procedural question?
yeah,
The hearing was warned as a preliminary and final plat review or subdivision review. Can this review be continued to a date and time certain that's sooner than a month out?
well, there's no, yeah, I know, I saw that with the warning, and I don't know, maybe it's just the start of the process. There has to be two separate hearings. And I don't, whether it makes sense to pick a date now, we can do that, but the second hearing would have to be warned. I wouldn't want to take a chance on that. We've given preliminary approval tonight for the subdivision. And for the final, there's going to have to be a new warning. I don't think one warning can at the front end can supply both, and we'd still have to note the date certain. You know, because the original, whatever the warning would, whatever Chris's warning said, it indeed said something about preliminary and final. Yeah, but there's no date there, as far as the public didn't get any notice of the date for the final. So we definitely have to provide that notice and give to the adjoiners and to the public at large. We couldn't just go forward and call it a continuing hearing. I don't think that'd be dangerous.
Some reason I was under the impression that the bylaws allowed for consolidation of preliminary and final if everything
Well,
was in line.
there's one line in there that I suppose you could take that way. But it doesn't mean, in my view, it doesn't mean that you can't collapse them into one. There's the provision that says you have to submit the final within a year unless for good cause shown. And I think what that is an opener for some reason the applicant needs their other permits, hasn't gotten them yet. You can give them a break on a year maximum, so they don't have to go around, start again.
And that interpretation, Valerie, was on mine initially, and that's under the verbiage of a minor, where they can combine the two, and this was deemed a major, so they did have to be broken out.
Yeah, anything commercial is automatically a major. There's no two ways about it. And if it's a minor is something that's residential, but no more than 3 lots. So everything else is a major, which means 2 hearings.
Okay, I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, any other business? Then if not, we're ready to adjourn. Call it a night.
Question.
Oh, Carol. Yes, you can have milk and cookies before bed.
Of Chris, we've been talking about this camp that may or may not be in the floodplain, and we're going to go out. I'd like to take it off my worry list because apparently additional building has been going on recently there. And
I haven't been up there yet. The listers were just up there 2 or 3 weeks ago. And they're in the middle of trying to finalize their grand list stuff, but I think they have photos for me. I can touch base with Mark tomorrow.
yeah, please. And let me know. I just, this is a nagging thing.
Oh,
been going on for a year.
Yeah, it's on the pile of violations that we're trying to figure out. So
Okay.
It has not fallen through the cracks, I promise.
Okay.
All
Thank you, everyone.
And when will our next meeting be?
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Kevin. Good night, everybody. We're adjourned.
Next meeting will be, it appears it'll be on the 25th. I don't think I have anything for you for the second Tuesday, but if I do, I'll know by the end of this week.
May 25th.
May 25th tentatively is your next meeting.
Okay. Thank you all. Good night.
Hey.